Welcome everyone to Sister Wives with Mary Jane Kay. Today, I'll be giving my commentary on Seeking Sister Wife Season 4, Episode 3, Can't Clip These Wings. The episode opens with the Epps family of Orlando, Florida. India and Taryn are picking wine to help plan a date for Marcus, who is going on a date with potential third wife, Bina. Even though India is helping pick the wine, and she thinks it's good that Bina knows they're in support of this, it doesn't change the fact that she is still apprehensive and she doesn't know if she is ready to watch her fiancé Marcus date another woman. Taryn asks India how she feels about all this. Taryn knows they've discussed bringing on a third wife, but it's real now that they're planning this date. India says the thought of Marcus dating makes her cringe a little because he gets to date and fall in love with this new person. Marcus and Taryn have known Bina for a long time, so if they think she will be a good fit, India trusts their judgment. India says their chemistry and dynamic is so strong. They have such a good vibe with just the three of them. The thought of it potentially not being that dynamic anymore scares her. Taryn wonders or if it changes their dynamic between the three of them and they can't go back to how it is now. India asks Taryn what it was like for her when she had to accept her into the family. Taryn says to watch Marcus fall in love with India, it was tough at times. And when they weren't together and they wanted to be a family and Marcus would tell her that he and India were taking her kids out, Taryn felt protective, like those are her kids. And she wondered why Marcus was doing this. Taryn didn't mind so much that Marcus had a relationship with India until it started to get serious. Once, Taryn told Marcus he had to give India up. Taryn says when Marcus started dating India, they didn't want to interact, but she stuck around. She lived at the house while Marcus, India, had a relationship. She says it was tough, but she knew it was what Marcus needed at that time in his life. Taryn says India made Marcus feel good when times were tough for him. India breaks down in tears talking with Taryn about this. She says right when she began dating Marcus, his grandmother, who was a mother to him, passed away. So it was a tough time, but also a time that brought them closer together. Taryn says they need to take their time to make sure it's right, and if it's not right, they will know. India says now that they have started dating someone else, even though she knows this is what their family needs, she is still apprehensive. The thought of her watching Marcus fall in love with someone else will be hard for her to watch. She is very territorial, and watching the person you love go love someone else, you think, I want all your love for us, and I don't want to share it. Next up are the Merrifields. Garrick is in tears after his video call with Roberta. She is crying and super sad because potential third wife Leah is there instead of her. Leah sees Garrick crying and she hugs him and comforts him. Leah says Bert has a constant roller coaster of emotions all of the time. So Leah is going to try to be patient and hope that they can keep building their relationship because she doesn't want to build up any type of resentment towards Bert. Leah shuts down when she has issues. She knows she can't do that in this situation because it could be detrimental for their relationship. Garrick is cooking in the kitchen in tears and Leah asks if he is okay. And he says he's sad and he can't think clearly. He hasn't seen Roberta's face in so long. Leah says the call with Roberta was very emotional, so she wanted to check in with him. Leah wanted to have that time in the kitchen helping Garrick cook to bond and see if there was any chemistry there. Garrick is gross. He just cried over Roberta and he gently caresses Leah's back as she is helping him chop peppers. Garrick gives me the creepiest vibes. Leah jokes with Garrick that one thing she can do is season some meat. Gross. Leah says she definitely feels the vibes around Garrick when she is around him. She feels he is respectful, he isn't gropey, and Leah appreciates that. But she can tell he really likes her. Leah hopes that she and Garrick can steal a kiss later. Leah asks Danielle what her boundaries are and how Danielle feels about Leah's interactions with Garrick. Danielle says to her the boundaries are no sex. That's the commitment for life and they don't take it lightly. That's Leah and Garrick becoming one. Leah says she views Danielle as the gatekeeper and guide in her relationship with Garrick. and she feels she and Garrick would need more room to grow naturally. Leah tells Danielle to rest assured. She isn't trying to sleep with her husband, she is just trying to get to know him. And Danielle tells Leah she believes her and she trusts her. Leah rolls her eyes at that, and Danielle asks what the eye roll was for. And Leah says she would think Danielle and Garrick would make sure she trusted them. Leah feels like she has never given them a reason not to trust her. Danielle says Leah's character is very bold, and that can be intimidating, or it could lead to conflict at times. And Danielle can see that being an issue. Next up are the Jones family of Portland, Oregon. Tasha, 29, and Sidian, 38, are from last season. Tasha is Sidian's wife. They are a plural family seeking their next sister wife. To Tasha, polygamy means a big, beautiful family and a happy, bustling home. For Sidian, it's a meaningful experience because having different people around brings out different parts of himself, and it helps him to grow and self-reflect. Tasha says one thing Sidian never says is he loves women. He really does. So he loves seeing women in the house together, taking care of the kids. He says women have a particular warmth and energy, and to have more of that is a beautiful thing. Tasha says when she first came into the family and the relationship with Sidian, Sidian already had a wife and kids. So she came in as a second wife, and as time went on, Sidian's first wife found herself falling out of love with the idea of polygamy. Tasha says it's really sad because at the same time, she was actually falling in love with the lifestyle. So Sidian's first wife decided to leave and Tasha decided to stay. She says looking back on when they were good with their first wife, Tasha adores the dynamic of having extra moms for the kids, and having someone around all the time is something she really appreciates. Sidian has 3 kids and 2 of his kids live with him. One of his kids changed their pronouns and goes by a different name, and Liam supports his direction. Sidian says a potential sister wife will have to accept his children for who they are. They moved to Portland, Oregon from Boise, Idaho. They wanted to make sure that their kids didn't feel the stigma of LGBT issues or being in a polygamous family, and it's a more accepting culture in Oregon. Sidian says when they lived in Boise, they dated a few different women there. They haven't had a lot of success in seeking a potential sister wife, but they know that it will enrich their lives and their children's lives as well. Tasha says it's hard to find people who mesh well with the kids, or someone who has chemistry with Sidian or who works well with her. Tasha says they chose to continue the lifestyle even though it is difficult and trying at times because they both really fell in love with it and it makes them happy. There is a new woman in Tasha and Sidian's life, a potential sister wife, Ariel. She's a Filipino woman. Sidian has been dating long distance. She's a beauty pageant winner, and Sidian says she is drop dead gorgeous. Ariel is a friend that Tasha met at work 4 or 5 years ago. Tasha went on a work trip to the Philippines and she spent a lot of time with Ariel. Tasha brought up the idea with Ariel of testing it out and trying to date Sidian because she adores Ariel as a person. When it comes to what Tasha wants in a sister wife, Ariel fits the bill. Sidian thinks Ariel is perfect for them because she is genuine, she has great emotional intelligence, and she isn't hesitant to boss Sidian around, according to Tasha. They video chat Ariel. Sidian says it's hard to date long distance because it's hard for them to communicate. The video keeps breaking up when they try to chat. Sidian has not yet met Ariel in person, and they tried to meet her twice in person, and they failed twice. Sidian is worried Ariel will say that this is too much for her. Ariel comes from a conservative family, and he worries that her family may not approve of the relationship. So Ariel may decide she wants to pursue something easier. Sidian thinks the next step is to meet in person to make sure the online connection they share is as good or better in real life. Tasha is worried if Ariel doesn't meet Sidian in person soon, that Ariel will lose hope in this working out and she may drop them. In my opinion, with Sidian, all of this philosophizing about a woman's energy and this and that, in my opinion, is BS. I think Sidian likes women a lot and he probably has trouble being monogamous. So he adopted this lifestyle to be able to have his cake and eat it too. And he does a bunch of deep philosophizing to make it feel intellectual and deep, when really he has an ego in my opinion and he likes a variety. Tasha gives me a creepy Charlie Manson girl cult vibes type of feel like those women who were his followers, but I think she genuinely does like the idea of polygamy. Next up are the Davis family of Aurora, Colorado. Danielle comes down to the kitchen the next morning and she sits with Nick. Nick says his first solo date with Danielle went great and things are getting serious. Nick tells Danielle he enjoys spending time with her and it's fun, and Danielle agrees. Nick says he and Danielle had sex. This morning, April and Jennifer went to work early, so Nick and Danielle are alone. April says eventually they crawled into bed and slept with Nick like they always do, just with an extra person in the bed. Danielle tells Nick she is glad they got to spend time together, and hopefully they can spend more time together. Danielle says they had sex, and Nick says he wasn't sure if she would feel comfortable with coming home with him on the first date. And Danielle says she feels very comfortable around them. Nick tells Danielle he hasn't had time to talk yet with April and Jennifer to see how things are sitting with them. Danielle says April and Jennifer are very understanding, and if anything, they're encouraging of it. Danielle says being in a group relationship, it's about all of them. So if one relationship between two of the partners was off, it wouldn't function. Danielle tells Nick she would love to touch base with April and Jennifer to see how they feel about her and to discuss with them how she feels about them. Nick says they will see how it all gels together, how the three of them click. April says they prefer to initiate everything together to make sure they can build everything together. So the first one-on-one date is a big step. It means that April trusts them and Nick trusts them to be one-on-one and that they are serious in taking the next step. Nick says when it comes to taking the next step, it's not just his decision or taking his wants and desires into consideration. He understands this has to be a harmonious thing. Danielle tells Nick she likes him a lot. Nick says the polygamous relationships he had in the past didn't work out because the people he dated weren't honest about how okay they were with this sort of arrangement. The people thought this was a passing phase and he wasn't serious about living this way in polygamy. Nick says they have to strategize with Danielle because there are so many things to consider, and Nick's first concern is keeping his existing foundation secure. Back to the Epps family, Marcus is taking Bina on a date. He met Bina 12 years ago and they vibed and they have been friends ever since. Although Bina hasn't met India, but she has met Taryn. Bina is a hairstylist in North Carolina. She has her own business. And Taryn and Marcus used to live in North Carolina. This is the first time that Bina has ever explored the idea of a plural family, but she brought her interest in being part of the family to Marcus. Bina says she and Marcus have never dated in the past, and she thought being in a polygamous relationship was a joke. But over the years, she learned Marcus was serious about the lifestyle, and Bina is attracted to Marcus. Marcus says dating Bina is more difficult than other people because they have been friends for years, and he thinks Bina was always interested in dating him from the beginning if she was honest with herself. India and Taryn set up a whole picnic by the water. There's a cookie with cream in the center, and Bina tells Marcus to lick it, and he says no, he's licked something, but he ain't licking that. And Bina makes him lick the cookie, and I find Marcus gross, so it was nauseating to watch as a viewer. Bina asks Marcus what the best advice is that he would give someone coming into a polygamous relationship. Marcus says with this lifestyle, you have to be able to tend to multiple people, and he thinks he has proven he can do that. What I noticed about this is he doesn't really answer Bina's question and give her advice for herself. He just says what he does in the lifestyle, and he completely ignores giving her advice. He just wants to talk about how good he is at tending to multiple people and that he's proven he can do that. I found that interesting. Bina asks how many wives Marcus expects to have, and Marcus says 3 is a charm, so when Marcus has alone time with a wife, the 2 other wives have each other and they can have time to work or take care of the family and house. Bina asks if the women are ever at odds. Marcus says it happens. He's been married to Taryn for 16 years and he has been with India for 4 years. So for India, she feels it's he and Taryn against her. And Marcus feels when they talk about bringing in someone else, it's about making things more balanced and equal in the house. With Bina, he says it doesn't give the dynamic more balance or equality because he and Taryn have known Bina for years. So Marcus is concerned about it. Marcus jokes that Bina should make India her bestie. He says sometimes India feels left out, and he also feels like the addition of Bina will exacerbate that since there's already a friendship with him, Taryn, and Bina, so he thinks maybe someone on a more neutral ground will be better because it's important not to rock the boat. Bina says she wants to interrogate Marcus, and Marcus says it feels good she is asking questions because she is finally considering him. Marcus feels he can typically handle and manage just about everything, but he's never been able to handle and manage her. She's so independent. Bina says she is a butterfly, so no one, including Marcus, can clip her wings. Marcus asks where Bina's wings were taking her, and Bina says nowhere, she just likes to be a free spirit. Marcus says that makes him nervous. He explains his family is so tight-knit that they don't do much outside of that group. Marcus struggles with Bina's independence and not knowing how serious she is because Bina struggles with taking his lifestyle seriously. Marcus asks Bina what about her life and past experiences makes this lifestyle something that she is open to. She says if you are dating someone and they step out on you, she feels like not all men want one woman. Some men may need multiple people, and that feels better than a man doing it behind her back. So she would rather be a team than a man doing whatever he wants to do. Bina says as she gets older, she realizes monogamous relationships don't work because of cheating. She says a polygamous relationship feels better to her because it's a lot more open. There shouldn't be secrets. And with polygamy, someone always knows where the guy is. Bina says this feels like it should feel. Marcus asks if Bina believes he is seriously interested in her, and she believes him. Marcus says he felt that natural chemistry there on this date with her. It's amazing. Marcus doesn't know yet fully how his wives feel about Bina being a part of their family. He says India doesn't know Bina as well as Taryn does, but Marcus is at a point where he wants his wives to hang out with Bina to find out how it goes. Marcus wants to take Bina to his house to meet his wives, and Bina is down. Marcus says he is looking forward to getting to know how to work that mouth. He is so gross. I don't find him physically appealing at all, so when he makes these sexual comments, it really makes me feel nauseated and sick to my stomach, honestly. In my opinion, Bina is wanting to try polygamy as a lifestyle because in her mind, most monogamous men cheat. So since she feels she has to accept cheating, she feels it's better to do it in the open with polygamy. I don't know what kind of monogamous men Bina has dates with, but not all monogamous men are cheaters or hypersexualized to the point where they cheat. That shouldn't be viewed as the norm. Maybe she wasn't dating the right guys, but not all men cheat or are interested in that. It depends on the type of man and their priorities. But no woman should accept cheating, and to accept a lifestyle just because you feel cheating is inevitable with most men. So she might as well live in a structure where they do it openly in polygamy and accept many women since the men she encountered can't handle being faithful. It's not accepting the lifestyle for the right reasons, in my opinion. Her reason is men will cheat inevitably, so I'll just be with someone with many women because men can't be monogamous. But men can be monogamous and be faithful with just one partner if they have the right priorities in life. So I don't think that Bina is getting into polygamy for the right reasons, in my opinion. Back to the Merrifields, they are all having dinner. Danielle says Leah speaks her mind. Garrick says Leah is cute. Garrick says Danielle and Leah both speak their minds, and that's why they get along. And he and Roberta are the more reserved ones. Leah asks what Danielle and Garrick think so far. Garrick says it's a special day and he is very happy to have Leah in his life. Garrick is happy they are all together. Danielle says they want that for all of them, unity and peace. Leah says it's important for her to know what the relationship would look like, how it would feel, what the future with them would be like. It's important for her to know that the Merrifields know what they want and what they are looking for, and that they know that she knows what she wants and what she is looking for, and that it will mesh well and be compatible. Leah asks how the house would go as far as Danielle being there or how the house would be run. Danielle says as Bert comes into the house too, Bert doesn't speak English, so it would be hard for her to have a job and to work, so her role would be the house initially and being in the home. Leah explains she works at the hospital for 8 to 12-hour shifts, so she doesn't feel she should have to come home and do laundry and cook. Leah says half the time she eats at work or on the way home from work. Garrick says in confessional, 12 hours a day of shifts and working concerns him. He says 3 days a week would be good because then there are a bunch of days to enjoy the family. Garrick wonders how many days a week Leah wants to work. He has a successful company, so it would be nice to have someone at home with the family helping out. Garrick tells Leah he doesn't know if 12 hours a day would be good. He says it's a lot of time away from the family and it's important for Leah to be home. Garrick would like to see maybe 30 hours a week of work or something like that, and Leah could help around the house and focus on the family, and he'd prefer that. Garrick says Leah not wanting to do chores and laundry is a red flag. And Danielle says it's a red flag too because to her, that mindset isn't working together and whatever needs to be done. Because to Danielle, a plural family means being there to work together and to help and support each other. Leah says working less would be a big adjustment for her because she is used to her career and she has her own goals and personal ambitions. So that would be interesting. She might want to go back to school even. So she doesn't know about working just 30 hours a week. Her son being happy and her being able to thrive in her career are the most important things to her, and it's big for Leah. Danielle says there is an independence about Leah. It's part of her character, and she has been alone a long time. Garrick says a plural family has to be united. Danielle says you have to be willing to make sacrifices for each other. So Garrick is hesitant about Leah. Back to the Epps family of Orlando, Florida, Taryn and India are home, anxiously waiting to see how Marcus's date went. So far, they've got nothing but radio silence from Marcus. Taryn is anxious because Marcus has been gone for a while. It could be a good thing or a bad thing, but Taryn has high hopes and she's excited to hear what Marcus says when he gets home. Marcus gets home, the date went well, and Marcus tells his wives they are dope. The way they set up the picnic was amazing. And Bina was excited that his wives contributed to it by setting up the picnic. Bina is leaving the day after tomorrow, so Marcus invited Bina to come over tomorrow night to meet everyone. Marcus asks Taryn and India how they feel about Bina since they weren't expecting him to come home and say he is already ready to take it to the next level. India says Marcus wants to talk about the next step with Bina right after getting home from his date, and it threw her off because she didn't think they would be having conversations like this just yet at all. Marcus has a question for his wives. He says he didn't marry them before testing the waters. He's curious where in the process the sex happens. India says it's funny he brought it up. She asks him, is it because he wants it to happen early on in this process? She asks why Marcus just brought it up. Marcus says organically, in a dating situation, sex can happen at any time. He says this is the first time he has had a conversation with India and Taryn about when sex happens throughout the dating process. He is inclined to speed up the process because there is a history there with Bina already. Marcus wants to know if the sex will be just as fire as the friendship is. Taryn thinks it should happen organically. She doesn't think Marcus needs to tell her or India when he is thinking about having sex with Bina. Taryn doesn't want to know. India tells Taryn to speak for herself. She disagrees. She tells Marcus he should inform her when he is ready for that step because then that is serious. And if he is ready to be intimate, he feels Bina could be a fit for the family. And at that point, they all need to be on the same page. Marcus says then it's never organic. India says this is fast, and if Marcus moves too fast on his end, and if he decides to jump the gun and have sex, and she and Bina haven't made a connection, it's putting the cart before the horse. And then they have to backpedal, so they all need to have chemistry with Bina before it gets to a physical level. Taryn asks India if she would ever give Marcus the green light. India says she would, but the fact that they are talking about sex now, and it was only the first date, makes her feel like Marcus is trying to fast track it. India says Taryn is gung-ho about this and enthusiastic, and Taryn says India is the complete opposite. India says you have to create boundaries when you've had no boundaries. India explains there's layers to this. There's Marcus, there's she and Taryn, and then there's the kids. And she thinks once the person has passed meeting the kids layer, then they know it's serious if Bina meets their kids. After that point, they can officially give the green light. Marcus says that's a serious decision and there is nobody he is passing on. Marcus tells India he agrees, but he asks India to flip it back and remove herself from the situation for a second. He says if you're a single woman with children and you want to bring a man home, you won't do it unless you already envision that they could be a part of your family. He doesn't want to play that game with the kids where now this person didn't have sex with him and sex is bad and his kids are playing in the middle of his sex life. So he tells India no. Marcus says this will always be difficult and let's not put the kids out there too as a layer till he can have sex. India says Marcus will just put his wanker out there. I think Marcus may have already had sex with Bina and that's why he is mentioning it. And I think his primary concern is sex and his selfish wants and needs, in my opinion. What India said makes sense, and this bullshit about it has to happen organically is about Marcus wanting to have sex when his little brain wants to, and he may not want sex to coincide with Bina meeting his kids at that stage, because he wants to be able to have sex before it gets serious. He wants to have the option of sampling the milk before buying the cow, and India knows that. I think Marcus's main priority is sex. Next time on Seeking Sister Wife, Taryn and India meet Bina, and India asks her, why not a monogamous relationship? Bina responds, because you get cheated on. Marcus tells India he doesn't want to be waiting for them to tell the potential women that he dates when they can get in bed with him. India says there will be some things now that they have a well-oiled running machine. Leah asks Garrick what his ideal number of wives is. Garrick says 5 would be the limit, and Leah asks, what if she says 6? She says there are things she and Garrick need to work through. Tasha and Sidian video chat with Ariel, and Sidian tells Ariel the new plan is for him to travel to the Philippines to meet her. He tells Ariel she can help him decide how many hotel rooms they will need. April tells Steve she isn't sure what they are expecting from her. Brenda says after 5 months, she felt they would be closer than they are. Brenda tells April she is not even a thought. Steve asks April if she needs Brenda. April says, well, and Brenda looks frustrated, and it ends there. That does it for this episode. To my YouTube viewers, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Look out this week for the next episode of My Sister Wives Rewatch, Season 2, Episode 9, No Place for Home, and next week for more Seeking Sister Wife, Book Club, and maybe the next rewatch episode of Sister Wives or Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you soon. Bye.